Hi everyone, we are live. I'm just waiting just another minute. Just making sure that you grab everything that you need. Cushions, blocks, bolster. Okay, so I think we're ready. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Louise, for those that don't know me. We're going to be doing a yin session tonight, so it's yin for happy hips. So it's been requested by Stu and by Rick as well. So yeah, so we're going to be doing lots of hip work. So grab yourselves your things that you need. So hopefully everybody's got plenty of blocks or cushions and a bolster if you have one. If you don't have a bolster, don't worry too much. Maybe just kind of get a towel and really wrap it up nice and tight. Right, a couple of towels and really roll them up so you can use that as well. Right, I think that's everything, and then we can begin. So if you want to bring yourselves sitting, first of all, just to an easy cross-legged, so either with the shins crossed or with one heel in front of the other one. Now, if this causes you a problem to sit like this, then by all means sit with the legs straight and have the legs kind of stretched out at a little bit of an angle. Okay. So for those that are not familiar with a yin practice, it's a lot slower practice. We're going to be holding the postures for a few minutes. Ideally, you can kind of like hold the postures anything from like 3 to like 15 minutes or so. We're not going to be doing the 15-minute holds in this session. I'll save those for kind of my venues, and we can do like a lot longer session in those. So they're going to be held just for a few minutes, so we can have a nice variety of postures as well. So, right, so we'll get started. Same process as bracing your teeth. So we find and we kind of stress, when you have your teeth braced, we stress that a little bit, but it's not to the point of gritting your teeth. So like that with any of the postures as well, we need to apply a little bit of stress, which is good stress, but not to the point where we grit our teeth. Okay, so we find our edge in a pose, and we're kind to ourselves when we find that edge, and then we become still once we've found it. This is our doorway to kind of other realms that are going on in the body. And what we do when we become still is then we surrender ourselves to it, and we're patient, we're fully present in what we're doing, and this is where the changes then will happen. Okay, so just to begin with, we want to set our intention for our practice. So just start and just roll the shoulders back. Keep the chest lifted, nice straight spine, and then bringing the hands together. Okay, just dip the chin in slightly, so again we feel the length along the whole of the spine, so including the cervical spine right up into the skull. So just closing your eyes and tune in just to your body, just to how you actually feel. And just bringing in the attention of the breathing as well. And just let the breath just sit just within the body. So each time we breathe, we feel a gentle expanding and contracting and expanding and contracting just of our body. Feel those rise and falls, ebb and flow. And when we're fully present in that moment, then set your intention. So just giving yourself permission just to be here for the length of the session. And just being kind to yourself. And then bringing the thumbs up just to the space between the eyes. So just to reaffirm, and then taking the hands up over the crown. So your intention is then out there. Draw the hands back down again towards the heart center. Center for love and compassion. And then bringing the hands down to the knees. And just softly blink the eyes open. So after your next exhalation, we're just going to bring ourselves just into a tabletop position. So just maybe rock over the knees and then coming through, so just onto hands and knees. Now you can take any bits of padding that you have. So if you have your blanket or anything like that, so just to go underneath your knees. So I know that one of the people who requested for the hips, so Stuart, with your little bit iffy knees, so making sure that you're kind to yourself, pad your knees out, and like anybody else, if there's any compression, then just maybe placing things behind the back of the legs may help. So just even in that position as we come down into child's pose. So if you need to, make sure that you do, pad that out. If you're able to, just sit the bottom back towards the heels. And the knees are going to go out just slightly wider than the hips. Just take a gentle rock over from side to side. And then stretching the arms away. And just bring that forehead down. Now the arms are just going to have a slight bend. So you're able just to surrender down towards your mat. I'm just going to come back up because I'm just going to talk you through it. So just making sure that you're sinking the bottom back. This is going to give a nice stretch out just right into the small of the back. So right that band across there. And we're also starting to sink a little deeper just into the hips. So again, just being kind. Find your edge in that. And that is, if it's up here, that's fine. Just pad it out. Fill up any gaps with kind of any of your props, with your blanket, with anything, just filling them out and just be able to kind of be at a place where you can actually breathe and soften into that. Just allowing the body just to release and to let go. Now, if you're familiar with the Ujjayi breathing, slightly noisier, raspier sounding breath, then by all means just bring that into your practice. The thing is, don't focus on it to drive you to somewhere. Just allow it to be there so you keep the attention of your breath. Now, because a couple of minutes is gone, if we find that our edge has moved, if we're no longer feeling anything, then make a slight adjustment. Try and do it with a minimum amount of movement possible. So if it means just sliding the knees out a little bit wider, then by all means go there. If it was enough for you before, then just stay there. And again, just taking the head down. So the arms, you don't have to have the arms straight, just anything that can just be there, slightly bent, just allowing kind of that support for the lower part of the body. So you may even feel that little bit of sinking in just between the shoulder blades, just that kind of sinking down. Focus more on just easing the bottom back so we feel that into the hips. Okay, and then bring yourselves back up again. So just bringing the knees back together, back onto your tabletop. Okay, tucking the toes under. So we're going to go up just gently into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. So your downward facing dog pose. Take a little rock out from side to side. So legs are straight, chest heading back towards the legs, and come right up onto the toes and then back down again to the knees. Now we're just going to come back into that sitting position. So again, grab your block to sit on, or you may need to get more blocks, because we're going to come into butterfly pose or into Baddha Konasana, and with the soles of the feet together. So we're up on a block. That's going to help to lengthen the spine. What tends to happen is if you're tight in the hips, or even if you're tight in the back and you're not sitting on a block, you'll kind of rock back more. The pelvis will rock back and you'll be more in that position. And you'll find that you put a little bit more stress and strain on your lower back. So you want to be able to kind of lift up. So we can hold around the ankles. If that's not accessible, that's fine. You can hold further up. Again, if the knees are a little bit of an issue, take the feet slightly further forward. Even if they're a bit more of an issue, you can just have them with a gap in between the feet. Okay, but if you can manage, soles of the feet are together, we're holding onto the ankles, and we're just working to lever ourselves up. When we lever ourselves up, we'll feel that gentle bit of stretch just onto those inner thighs and into the hips. So we can just take the head down and then allow the attention just to be on the breathing. So soft, quiet practice. Working on connective tissue. So this runs all the way through the body, interwoven between arteries and veins, through the muscles and around the muscles. It's almost like a matrix, like a stocking inside the body, holding the structure of the body. Over time, it gets knocked. There's trauma through either things what people have maybe said, or if you've knocked yourself on your arm or on your hip. In our house, people are constantly knocking their knee into the coffee table. And all this has a reverb effect running through the body. So yin practice gives time then just to iron out these creases. Just to start to realign, to unwind, to find some balance. Okay, so we're going to take the hands behind the legs and just bring those legs back up. And just holding on and again lifting up. Just taking 2 breaths. At the bottom of the breath, and we can just again come back over onto a tabletop. Now just make sure you've got your blocks and things handy for you for this one. So we're going to be going into Ardha Mukha Svanasana, but then coming through into pigeon pose, or in yin it is the sleeping swan pose. So arms are going to stretch forward and tabletop, tuck the toes, and we start to lift up with the hips. So we have our Ardha Mukha Svanasana now, downward facing dog pose. So from here, we're going to start just with our right leg. So we're going to start to lift that leg up. Now from there, from lifting the leg, we're going to bring the knee in, and the knee is going to come behind that right wrist. The foot is going to turn. Now we're sliding back with our left leg. Now, if there's a big gap underneath here, that there is on mine, so I'm going to take one block there, take as many as you need just to get that leveled up. Now, also as well, you can't see it so much, we'll show you when we do the other side. If there is a big, massive gap underneath the thigh of the outstretched leg, then again, you can place a block or a little bit of padding there. Now, fingertips are going to be down, and we're lifting and we're stretching the chest up towards the ceiling. Now we'll feel a long stretch through that back leg. So top of the foot is pressing down, and ideally we want to have the front of that leg in down towards the floor. There's a tendency to kind of rock over to the bent leg side, so we need to make sure that we stay fairly in our center. Now we'll feel that right on that back, the outstretched leg. We'll feel right up into the hip flexor, so right at the top of the thigh. And also we have on this right leg, there'll be an external rotation of that leg as it turns out. So there should be no feeling at all, no bad feeling at all kind of on the knee. It should be all taken into the movement of the hip. Now, if we feel okay here, we can start then just to bring the hands forward. So again, if you do have blocks and things, if you want them there, and just bring yourself down as low down as you want to go. You can bring the forehead down. So ideally, better to have the head down on something, even if it is just kind of like with your hands stacked up and the head is down to there. So better to have the forehead down and give it some focus, and especially into the center of the forehead. So into your third eye. So on there, when we have a little bit of pressure going down onto there, it kind of starts to create a relaxed feeling through the body. It starts to quieten the mind. And once we're here, again, we're still. We're finding that we have that edge. So remember, and I'm just going to come up a little bit just so you can hear me a little bit more clearly. So when we have that edge, we're kind to ourselves with that edge. We're not working into that stretch. We have that edge there, and we sit and we wait. We're still with that edge. We're breathing into it. So again, this is our doorway. Doorway to other realms and other realms of ourselves. We find then that things start to unravel. We find out a little bit more about ourselves, but not necessarily. It's not as if all that's going to information comes through tomorrow. It's all kind of like unfolds over the months. Similar again to kind of bracing the teeth. Sometimes it's more of a reflection when we look back over the months and think, oh, yeah, I did that with ease, or I surprised myself on that one. And it may be just attitudes towards things, towards other colleagues at work, family life. All these things start to unfold. Okay, now we're going to start to make our way back up. So just slowly start to come up, placing the hands down. So we come back up into that lift. And then if we bend our elbows, come down a little bit, tuck the toes under on that back leg, and straighten out through that leg. And then we can push down with the hands. We can lift up and taking that leg up in the air. Just rotate the ankle, and then bending that knee and just working large circles with that knee. And again, straighten the leg out and bringing that leg down. And I'm going to go same again for the other side. So remember, if you needed to have your props and things, just maybe scoot them over to the other side. So we're going to take our left leg. Take that leg up nice and high. And then we bring that knee in. So the knee is coming behind that left wrist. We turn the foot in. And ideally you want to have that foot flexed. And then it'll take it away from the knee. So we scoot back on the back leg. Now I'm going to take a block and place it underneath my left bum cheek so I don't rock over towards that side. If I was very high up here, then again you can have a block underneath there. So I'm going to make sure that we stay nice and level, pushing down with the fingers and lifting, opening up through the heart center, lifting that up towards the ceiling. That also takes us into a little bit of hyperextension just in the back. So just being aware if it feels a little bit too much, then it maybe is. So making sure we feel as if the whole of the front of the foot is pressing down and all of the toes pressing down. We feel that through the hip flexor. So right at the front here, right at the top of the leg. And that external rotation of the left leg. Now from there, aim to stretch the chest forward. We can come down, either down onto the forearms. You can bring your head down. It can either be down onto the floor or onto a block. Arms stretching out in front or the elbows slightly bent. So remember, we're not working quite so much with the top half of the body on this one. It is more for the hips. So really take that focus just into the hips. Now saying that, with a yin practice, even the area which we're working, we're not always going to necessarily feel any effects in that area. So we can end up feeling if there's something going on maybe in the foot, in the right foot, that may manifest through into the left shoulder. So just being aware of these things when we feel little fluctuations moving around the body, or even like a common one is maybe people itching or scratching. If you feel like you have an itch somewhere, it's the skin and the connective tissue starting to release and just to unravel. So just being aware of those things. Remember, we need to surrender down to the breath. Surrender to yourself. Be patient and be present. Okay, and then we slowly start to come back up. And then from here, we're going to just kind of bend the elbows a little bit just to come forward, tuck the toes under, straighten out through that back leg, and then pushing back through the arms, taking the leg up in the air. So we can start maybe just to kind of give a little bit of a rotation of the ankle. And then we can bend the knee, working large circles. And straighten the leg out and bringing that leg down. Okay, so from there, just moving out if there is anything in the way, and bring your knees down. Take the knees out again, just a little bit wider, And taking the big toes together, bottom back towards the heels. So again, remember, if you've got knee issues, pad out at the backs of the legs. Even if you have rolled up like a little towel or something, or flannel at the back of each knee to sit back, just so they're not folding back completely. And then taking the head down. So a few breaths. Okay. And then making your way back up. So we're just going to, again, make sure you've got your padding underneath your knees. Take a couple of your blocks and just place them just onto your left-hand side. So if we come up onto the knees and then bring your right leg forward. Now, if you scoot the back leg back just a little bit more, so you're not right up on the kneecap, you're just slightly forward of that. Now our hands are going to just, left hand is going to rest just onto the two blocks there. Now you'll see straight away I can start to turn out a little bit with my right foot. So it'll turn out to the side, kind of hooking towards the edge of the mat. So I can edge forward into that and then press into the blocks and working into a little bit of a twist. The hand can be there just to guide that leg, just to help roll out slightly to the side so it rotates a little bit more, an external rotation. Okay, we're also feeling this in the hip flexor here on that left leg. Now the hand and the arm is having to do a lot of work here because it's pressing down, it's fully supporting the lower part of the body. So at times you don't want to feel as if you're swinging into the joint. It's a big mistake. What happens with the yin is that we just swing into it because it does really help to get flexibility in the joints. We're not really wanting to do that. There's too much stress on it. So you want to feel almost as if the legs are slightly pulling together, and then you know you're not kind of overdoing it. Okay, so just allowing that leg just to ease out to the side a little bit more. Take a few breaths. Okay, so after your next exhalation, slowly start to bring that leg back in. Placing the hand down, take the leg back, and we're just going to move the blocks over to the other side and bring yourself just to lying down on your front. Place your hands down, take your head down onto your hands. I'm just going to prop myself up a little bit so I'm not talking down to the floor. So here, when your head is down and you're just making sure that you focus on the breathing and fully surrender to that breath. Feel the body almost sinking down towards the mat. Allow it to release and to let go. The poses that we've done, they look quite simple, but they're quite powerful poses. So really take your time with the breathing, and especially on these rest times when we're not having to do anything, just fully release and let go, surrender down to the floor. Okay, and then we're ready to move on to the other side. So just bringing yourselves back up again. So this time we're going to keep our right leg where it is, and we're going to take that left leg forward. So blocks are there just on your right hand side. So you're going to see the back of me on this one. So I'm going to keep that hand there. Now on the left leg, it's going to turn out slightly to the side. So when it turns out, my hand is going to just push into the leg as we turn, and just aiming to look around a little bit. So just watch with you. If you feel as if there's too much stress on that arm, just work to kind of get the legs to work a little bit more. Feel as if they're trying to pull in a little bit more towards each other. So just holding here. So just taking 2 more breaths. And bring it back around. Hand down, take that leg back. Move your blocks and things out of the way. And again, just bring yourself just to lying down. And just have the hands there with the head down. And take the feet out, maybe a little bit wider. Just let the body just completely melt down towards the mat. Just holding there, taking a few breaths. So with the yin practice, we're not only working on mobility in the joints and with the connective tissue and starting to kind of rebalance the body, but on an emotional level, we can start to unfold things of the mind, things that have been not haunting us for years, just things that are there that need to maybe come out and need to be addressed. So I've worked with people before, and when we've been doing this sort of work and things have popped into somebody's head and said, oh, that was 25 years ago and it just popped into my head. So all these things, there's maybe little things which we remember, which are all held there in the memory of our own makeup. We're made up of memories and of experiences. So all those sometimes start to unravel and start to come out. Unresolved issues and things like that, which have an effect on the body. Anything that's been left, not dealt with, is going to have a lasting effect. Sometimes we need to kind of have closure on those things and put them to bed. So when we work deeply into this type of practice, this is where we can really start to kind of unravel some of those things. So with the hips, on an emotional level, it's where we hold our deepest emotions. Okay, so just bringing yourselves back up. And we're going to grab hold of your bolster or your blocks. If you don't have a bolster, you can use your 2 blocks in that sort of shape. So it will be kind of a little rocking part, and you'll take yourself just over the blocks and just into that position. We will be coming up from here. So again, because it's going to give a stretch out along the front of the body and right especially into the hips. So from here, we're going to have the hands, the forearms and the elbows down and the hands down onto the floor, and we're lifting up. After a few breaths, a minute or so, if you feel you're able to, we're going to have the arms out straight. So we move from Sphinx pose up into seal pose. That's what they're called in the yin traditions. So if you do have a bolster, we can use that as well. So we can bring ourselves over that. So maybe not to be able to get the forearms that down quite onto the floor, but it's going to give us that little bit of support to lift up. So we can just hold here. So if you're more flexible in the back, then you can use your bolster. So just holding here, we can just have the head and the gaze if you're looking straight ahead. So feeling the stretch out through the hips. Just if you're not feeling that, just taking the legs back a little bit more, just pushing the feet back. So only getting the stretch just into the front of the body and up into the chest. And we're feeling that right from the tips of the toes, right along the front of the body. And the upper back, also getting a little bit of a conditioning here as well. Now, if you feel that you are able to, you can just then take the hands a little bit wider, press in so the arms are straight. You should feel no constriction at all into your lower back. And keep the tailbone tucked under so we keep plenty of space. So we feel that good stretch out just along the, right from the pubic bone. The softness now of the breath. Okay, and then we slowly start to bring it down, so we can just move the bolster out of the way, just rolling it out of the way. And again, just bring your head down onto your hands. Bring the feet a little bit closer together. Let the ankles just fall out to the sides. And taking a few breaths. A quick scan of the body. So just making sure that you're not unnecessarily holding on to any tension anywhere. Are we able to feel that little bit of slump as we exhale? Allowing the body just to completely melt down. Okay, so after the next exhalation, just bringing the hands in by the sides of the body and draw back through your belly just to protect your spine. Take the bottom back towards the heels, a little stretch back. It just gives a little bit of a stress out on the spine, just moving it back in the opposite direction. So remember, we still want to feel kind to the body. So if it feels awkward, then it probably is. So if you need to, you may need to be here with it. And then just gradually start just to move back. Okay, so just bringing yourselves up. Now we're going to take ourselves to the wall now. And we're going to be using the wall a fair bit. So grab kind of like, if you've got 2 blocks, grab your 2 blocks. If you've got more, then grab more. So, and you want to be kind of getting your bottom in fairly close to the wall. So, oh, if you heard that, that was my knees. So, when it's quiet, you hear all the aches and pains and things, and well, not pains, but you hear the achy bits in the body. Oh, and my shoulders popping as well. Right, so my bottom is in fairly close to the wall, and my legs are just stretching up the wall. Now, we can just hold here just for a moment. Take the legs out just with a little bit of a gap. Now, your arms are going to be out to the sides. Now, it's important to keep as much of the shoulders and the shoulder blades, these bits under here, keeping them down onto the floor. So for some of you, I know you can take the arms back over the head and have the whole of the arm resting onto the floor. If that's the case, you can go there, if you can, or take the arms wherever you feel you need to go to get a stretch with the arms. So I know there's Layla, your arms are right back over your head, and Leslie as well, maybe the arms are going to be back over the head. So for the rest of us, we're maybe going to have the arms out to the side to keep the whole of the back down onto the floor. So we're just going to keep that. So we are going to be here a little while, so you'll get a chance to kind of take the arms back. So let the back relax first, let it settle. Now we can let the feet just fall out a little bit to the sides. Now taking the focus of the breath into the hips. So just imagine kind of like breathing into the hips and exhaling to the hips. So just keeping that focus there. Now I let the legs just start to soften a little bit on their own. You can see my feet now just starting to turn out that little bit more. My knees and my legs are starting to turn out a little bit more. So the whole of my legs are starting to relax. They're going slightly wider, just slightly. So we've got that external rotation here of the legs. Now, I'm not going to go too wide with this because I'm going to bend the legs and I'm just going to get the soles of the feet to come together. And we're just in towards the body. Now, we're going to keep the soles of the feet there and the knees are out to the sides. If you need to push yourself further away from the wall to get the legs like that, then by all means push yourself further back. You just want to be feeling the stretch here. And again, as I can, your arms are just out to the sides, or for those that can, you can maybe take the arms back. But remember, be true to yourself and keep the top of the back down onto the floor. body is going to go with you a lot more if it's just allowed to kind of relax. So we're keeping the soles of the feet pressing together. We feel a gentle stress on here. So we feel a gentle stress of the hip joint, the muscles, and the connective tissue. Now the muscles have blood moving around them. So, and they're far greater pliable than the connective tissue. But the connective tissue, remember, is there for structure. So the muscles are going to move, but the connective tissue will spring back and hold it back a little bit. So we need to be slower, more controlled, and more gentle with it, just to ease it apart. And that also gives the connective tissue more time just to catch up, just to be able to be slightly more pliable. And you find then it can start to take on a different shape. So as a general rule, we're kind of 3 minutes for starting just to make a little bit of a change. 15 minutes, and we start to feel something called creep set in. So you know that if you've been sat at the computer chair for too long, and when you try and get up and your hips feel as if you can't straighten up. Okay, again, I'm going to slide the hands down, grab hold, and straighten those legs up. Again, arms out to the sides. Again, just let the feet soften. Let the legs feel heavy. So we almost feel kind of them sinking down slightly. And again, we start to get that just turning out, that external rotation. Now, this is where the blocks might come in handy. So we can just bring them in, whether you've got one block or more, and you can start just to pile them up. So just however you would need them. So some of them may be that way. So we've got Michelle from this class, so her legs will be wide. She probably won't need any supports whatsoever. So for the rest of us mere mortals, we're just going to take the legs out and out to the side, and we work with what we've got. Now you're not, again, just allowing the legs just to hang there. So we need to just maybe fill in the gaps, whatever we can, just let the legs feel supported. Takes a little bit of adjusting just to get in. So the legs do want to feel supported, they're not just hanging there. Again, with your arms, you may find then that you can start to get the arms a little bit further back. Now, notice as well when we take the arms back, if you're going to end up with the midsection of the back leaving the floor. So make sure it stays down. Again, be true to yourself. There's no rush with this. If we think it's that same principle as bracing your teeth, some people can cope with 18 months with their braces on, and some people are maybe 2.5, 3 years with their braces or more. So everyone's going to be slightly different. Now there's often lots of different feelings which can come up. Again, all those emotional things all starting to unravel and to come out. Also the attitude. So if we start to make changes in the body, sometimes when we make these changes, we're not altogether convinced about those changes. So we start to almost try and reason with ourselves in our own minds. So maybe things like, this practice isn't for me, I'm not really keen on this one, it's too slow, or whatever. Anything to kind of defer from going through maybe what needs to be gone through, because it is and it can be quite challenging. And sometimes not necessarily kind of like a physical challenge, but a mental challenge of just being here, being still, and being quiet. Okay, so I'm going to start to bring the legs back together. So let the hands come back down, and then we can just move the supports and bring those legs back up. Straighten the legs up, just push your way through the heels. Okay. Now, you maybe need to be just a little way from the wall on this one, depending again just on your flexibility. And remember, it is the movement of the hips, and it shouldn't feel painful in the knees. So we're just going to get the right leg first of all, and we're just going to let that right leg just start to relax. And we start to bend that leg down. Now from there, we can start just to bring it, so we can give it a little helping hand. We bring it over the knee. Now, ideally, we want to get that ankle bone onto the front of the thigh. If it's the foot, you're going to put a lot of strain on the ankle, so get that ankle bone right up onto there. And then from there, we can start, if it feels okay, we can start to bend the other leg a little bit, just up, coming down the wall. Now again, be truthful to yourself, feel your edge. You'll feel it here. Now for me, this is my lesser able side for rolling the hip out to the side. So I can really feel that, but it feels I can still breathe through it. So it's not, I'm not gritting my teeth to hold it there. There's no pain at all in my knee. If I keep remembering to flex my foot as well, so we can, it's going to take it more into the hip. If I want to, I can go a little bit further up with my arms now, if the back has released more. So just working it to where you feel comfortable with it. So remember, if you are more flexible, you can bring that leg right down the wall, or you can draw it in even in towards the chest. Soft and smooth with the breath. Being aware of any little changes. Whether you feel that the edge starts to go. Okay, so just bringing the arms down. Sliding that left leg back up the wall. And we can let that leg go, stretch it up. Arms out to the sides. Just let the legs relax, let them settle. Okay, so we're going to work onto the left. So we'll let the leg relax. Slowly get it just to start to come down. And we can give it a little bit of a helping hand and just placing that ankle bone just above the knee. So resting onto the front of the thigh. And then from there we can start to just draw down. So as you can see with this one, for me, it's a lot easier just to bring that leg down and bring this leg in closer. This hip is open a little bit more on this side. Now, just bear in mind, it's not always a good thing to have like the flexibility so much. So there's often, I think, if we have too much flexibility, then if there isn't the strength there with it, then it's going to be weaker. It's sometimes better to have the stiffer, stronger side than it is to have the weaker, more flexible side. So again, the idea is just to build a balance between the two. And if there is a great difference between one side and the other side, just making sure that we're not increasing that imbalance. So on my flexible side, I don't want to go too crazy on that. Again, we're just kind of working to find that edge. I know from previous experiences, just sometimes for me, kind of finding that edge on that side is not always kind of the thing. It's just ease off, don't quite feel it, and just allow that time just to focus just on your breathing. So you could always do this if you're not right next to the wall. You may find out you can just do this by just kind of having the sofa there in front of you and just kind of having the legs up a little bit onto the sofa and then pulling down, or just onto a chair with a chair pushed back against the wall if you want to be more into the centre of the room. Okay, so just starting now just to come out of this. I'm just going to again just take that leg up. And that leg comes up, we can just slide that other leg out, stretching the legs up the wall. So drive away by pushing through the heels. Now, whether you've got the backs of the legs onto the sofa or you've got the heels onto the wall, I'm sure you have something where you can just kind of push in and just push and just driving those legs so we feel the strength on the backs of the legs. And then releasing back down again. Okay, we're going a little bit wider with the legs. We're going to again turn the toes and the feet out to the side, let the whole of the leg turn just a little way, and then bending the legs. So we're just going to bring those legs in. So I like a wide leg squatting position. So hands can just kind of push onto the legs or into the inner thighs, just easing out a little bit to the sides. Again, if the knees are an issue, go back to kind of straight legs and take them out wide. And just again, making sure that they are supported so they're not just hanging there. You don't just want to be kind of hanging in midair with them, make sure that they are supported. Okay, so just sliding the hands round to the backs of the legs, bring the legs back together. And just move yourself out just a little bit away from the wall. Move your blocks. And taking the arms right out to the sides. So from here, we're just going to work into a little twist. So we're going to go around to the left side first. So we can just start to walk the feet, going out to the side and just easing over. Now, if you don't want to, you want to avoid kind of a gap underneath the legs, so you can always just kind of prop it in. Just propping that leg up as we go over to the side. So if you feel that this shoulder, the opposite shoulder, is anchored down, and then we start to feel the stretch along that right hand side, but we'll also feel that stretch away with the hip. So we have that right hip pushing away. So we can often have if there's been an injury kind of underneath the arm, in the armpit or around the shoulder for whatever reason, maybe a problem with the rotator cuff or something, then that can also affect the hip. So the hip, either on that side, like either hip, it can affecting how you, from the shoulder issue, can affect how you walk, the positioning of the hip. So remember, everything is connected. And funnily enough, that can even lead to plantar fasciitis. So if anyone's ever had that, so the problem underneath the sole of the foot can come right from the shoulder. And if it's affecting in your shoulder, it can also affect in your neck as well. Okay, so we're going to start just to bring it round. So we come back into the center. Let's take a moment there first. And when you feel it settle, and then you can start just to edge over to the other side. So notice whether you need 1 or 2 blocks or anything in there. So for me, there was definitely more of a pull when my knees were at the other side. I'm feeling it right along that right side of the body. So just always just noticing, just being aware. So just being fully in the present. Notice the quality of the breathing. Remember, your breath is an indication to how the body feels. And then we can also influence how the body feels by just taking charge of the breath, simply watching, observing, and it will start to slow itself down. Okay, so I'm going to start to bring it back round. So just slowly start to walk the feet back up. Stretch the legs up the wall. There's a little bit of a gap. Arms out. Just see how far you can go around with the arms. So for me, it's never going to be really straight back over my head. That's fine. I'll start to leave the mid-back. I'll start to leave the floor. So just about there is right for me. We're just going to take 3 long, deep breaths here. And then slowly start to bring the arms down. We can start to bring the legs down the wall. You can roll over to one side. And make your way back up. Now if you grab yourself either your bolster, your blanket. So if you want to make yourself as comfortable as possible when you're lying down. So if you take your bolster, and you can either have that just at the backs of the legs, and you can lay back. So here's going to take any pressure off your back. If you have any form of weight at all, you can place your blocks and things just on the body. So sometimes when we have a little bit of weight, that helps us and makes us feel much more secure. So just resting and just holding there. Alternately, if you don't want the bolster behind the backs of the legs, take the weight of the bolster and rest it along the front of the body. Also feel really nice, just that little bit of extra weight there. So just take a few moments just to kind of allow yourself just to adjust to that position. I'm just going to bring myself back up to sitting just while you're getting yourself in that position. So just take a little bit of wriggling around just to make yourself even 5 or 10% more comfortable. And just keep the chin right in towards the chest. And then let the head just gently turn from side to side. And bringing the head back to the center. I'm just going to bring the attention now of the breath just to the center of the forehead. Softly, just breathing in, breathing out to the center of the forehead. And then taking the focus of the breath now to the throat. Bring the attention of the breath now to the heart center, center of the chest. And now to the solar plexus, a soft spot just below the rib cage. And then direct it down to the belly. And to the base of the spine. And then to the whole of the body. And then again to the whole of the body. And then again to the whole of the body. Okay, so just gently now, just start to bring the awareness back in. Notice how you feel. Be aware of your surroundings. Swallow a couple of times, just bring back your sense of taste. Just run your fingers and your thumbs just over your mat or over your clothes. Just bringing back your sense of touch. Gently open the eyes. And now take a good stretch. We're going to stretch in a way called pandiculation. So it's similar to when an animal wakes and it's going to start to move. So we feel that it starts to open up and stretch out. Certain areas will maybe kind of feel a little bit rigid. Similar to what Rita's doing. So when we stretch out, certain areas become a little bit rigid, and we can take a big stretch out. And sometimes we can accompany that with being quite vocal as well. So almost like kind of a yawn or a sigh or that to wake the body. So we are saying in our 7:30 class on a Tuesday night, and at the end of it, it's be more Rick. So be more Rick, because you can be quite vocal as it does it. So make yourselves as vocal as possible when you're stretching out. Really start to wake the body up. And then when you feel you're awake enough, then bring yourselves up to sitting and bring your hands together. So the hands just gently pushing together, and just for a moment longer, just closing the eyes. Bring thoughts back of your intention. And to close the session, taking the hands up over the crown. Drawing the hands down to the Ajna chakra, our intuitive center. Vishuddha, we'll speak our truth and listen well. The Anahata, center for love and compassion. Manipura, gives us our will and our drive. Svadhisthana, being able to create change. And the Muladhara, for our strength and our stability. And just bringing the hands back to the Anahata chakra. So even though your practice that you've just done is personal and heartfelt and solely for yourself, you can just kind of bring the energy of that practice. Just bring to mind someone you feel could do with a little bit of help right now, and then dedicate that part of your practice to them. And opening up the eyes. Namaste. So thank you for joining me, everybody. And thank you for joining me and Rita. And hopefully the hips all feel really good next few days. So if you like what I do, then there's a subscribe button somewhere in that corner. And if you hit the bell, it'll notify when there's new videos going up or live streams going on. Or visit the website, www.SucramYoga.co.uk, and you can see what's going on there. Okay, well, thank you. So stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you again.